like actually my first competition, he ran off. Yeah, that was like the most humbling experience like that I've had. And I was like, I love this. I want to have this. And that moment kind of made me like realize that there's way more to it and I have to do way more to even have a chance to like go in that direction. And then I've learned the hard way that you could have your perfect plan, but it probably won't go that way. And every euro was invested into agility for my dog. You can kind of never dream big enough as long as you know how to cope with not getting it immediately. German tryouts are insanely intense. And when I went with Vax and I won the oval tryouts in Germany in large, which is the most difficult category, which was also his first year trying out, that was the moment where I was like, all right, I think we have the potential and I think we're on the right way to do it.
Today's guest is Max Sprinz, and recently he won European in large. And this is the second time in a row that he wins with his Border Collie Remix. And in addition to that, not only took he first place on this year's European Open, but he also got third place with his other dog, Style. Max has now won the European Open 3 times, and based on my knowledge and what I've done in terms of research, it's the first person who has won 3 times in large, and also with 2 different dogs. In addition to that, and we're still talking about the same European Open, the same year, this year in 2025, he got third place with his Sheltie Make in small. And including that, he also got third place for the team event in large and third place in small. And that was just for 2025. I have to emphasize that because that's a lot of medals in a very short period of time. In addition to that, he has had individual gold medals in like jumping, both in Liberec in Czech Republic and also in Belgium last year with his Border Collie Style. And he's also attending next week's AWC in Sweden with Style. Another thing that we have to bring up is Max's age. I think he's 26 years old now, or at least he's turning 26. And Max talks about in the podcast that he didn't want to be a one-dog wonder. And just by reading up his merits, and this is just a part of that merit, I can definitely say that, Max, you're not a one-dog wonder, and people know that. But it didn't come for free. And in today's episode, we're going to get to hear his story from no other than Max. If you haven't yet subscribed to this podcast, please do. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, whatever you want. And also, I want to invite you to subscribe to the Daily Champion Affirmation newsletter by going to dogagilityperformance.com, and then you will get daily an affirmation in your email inbox that can help you as a tool to build a proper mindset. And also the purpose of this podcast is that to help you build a growth mindset through listening to other people's story, not just seeing them on the top of the podium, whether it's first, second, or third place, or maybe first and third place like in Max's instance, but actually to understand the journey that took them there and that you can relate to that journey yourself. So that's it for now. Let's head over to Max. Hi, and welcome to Champion's Journey. Today, I'm really honored to have Max Sprinz with us. And hey, Max.
Hi, I'm super, super happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
How are you?
I'm really, really good. I'm busy working. Yeah, and I've been walking, I think at 6 in the morning in the woods because it's gonna be like 36 degrees today here.
Yeah, it's really hot in Germany at the moment, but kind of jumping straight into it. It is now after European Open, which basically had the same temperature, and
Yeah.
let's touch base on how that went.
Not too bad, I would say. No, it was honestly thinking about going to Portugal for European Open. It's far. It's gonna be hot, so there's lots of things you have to consider before. Um, yeah, but in the end, this is what I like. This is the life we want, or I want. So yeah, we went there, and I would say I had a pretty good expectation of what could be, because I know that in the end, it can be hot, it can be cold, I don't care. Um, even if it's in the middle of the night, which happened Saturday night. Yeah, and in the end, I got 3 individual medals, which is super crazy. So Remix defended her title from last year, which in the large category is something that probably I wouldn't even dare to, like, say out loud that this is, like, my that was my goal. Um, and then Style deserved his 3rd place, which is amazing, and Little Make on her last European Open, she also got 3rd place individual and 3rd place in team, and Style also got 3rd place in team. So 5 medals in 24 hours. I'm over the moon with that.
Yeah, and with very little sleep
Yeah,
connected to it.
yeah.
For those that didn't follow along with European Open, the teams final went way and beyond time schedule. When were you at bed on
A
Saturday?
a bad. What is the bad? Um, yeah, so my last run with Remix was at 3:26 or something. And then we went back to the Airbnb, which is half an hour, I think like 4:30, 4:45. And then at 8 we went back.
Yeah, it's crazy, and for I was the team leader for Norway, and we didn't have anyone qualify for the team final.
Lucky you.
Yeah, we kind of concluded that we were lucky in that situation. But then again, you're there to compete. But we're going to go into your story. And I think that that is super important. The purpose of this podcast is really to help people build this growth mindset. And the best way to do that is really to study the ones that are really good and understanding their story and the efforts that they put in. And I know that you have a fantastic story because we know each other from before, but I really want to listen to it again.
Yeah.
Where did it start?
Well, basically, if you really start from the beginning, I should mention that I was scared as hell of dogs for the first 10 years of my life. Like, I would see a dog and I would cross the street and I would say, I'm a cat person. I love animals forever. We had birds, cats, everything. Dogs, oh my God, stay away. Um, yeah, and then I don't know what happened, but when I was 10, 11, so easy to remember my age because it's always the year we have, depending on where we are in the month, plus 1 year. So, 10 to 11, I was suddenly starting to want a dog. And yeah, 2012, I convinced my parents that we should get a dog. Um, and we found a litter of fox terrier. Um, who would have like, why did nobody tell us that fox terrier might not be a good first breed, honestly? Um, yeah, but we got her, we picked her up, and um, like, I don't know, for the first time in my life, it was like I was attached to like an animal in a way where, you want to take care, you want the best for them. And hopefully the ambition of all the people listening to this podcast of always wanting the best for their animals. Um, yeah, and actually in the beginning, I was still I don't know if you know quad, which is like riding motocross, but with 4 wheels. And we were traveling the country to go to like races and stuff. Um, and I wasn't even into like dog sports with Emma the terrier. But my mom started obedience with her, and I was like, this looks too boring for me. And by now I know there's like such amazing ways to do obedience. So I find it actually very, very interesting nowadays. Back then I wanted something like more energy, more yeah, so I had a really, really person that was teaching. She was running agility, but mainly like a dog trainer. And we went to like behavior group. And from like the beginning on, it was super important that I'm doing it because I had a feeling, don't tell my mom, but I'm doing it better than her. Um, so yeah, I went and I kind of like it was very difficult. We should be honest with that because she like of course because of lack of knowledge from me, she was like disconnected. She would go away. She like even in like group training stuff, far away from considering agility at all. Um, and yeah, I mean, I was 13 years old. Um, and I don't know, I think in that period, actually, like without even knowing it, um, kind of this visualizing growth mindset type of thing maybe started, like looking back, um, because I wasn't going to give up. Um, I saw that dog and I wanted that because I saw other people in that group who, like, had total control over everything they did with their dog. So I was like, "How are you doing this?" So I would be like back then already started like this, "What are you doing? I need to know what you're doing." Yeah, I started taking agility group lessons a little after that, um, which, to be honest, maybe I should have waited a little bit longer, because the dog wasn't really, like, into it. But looking back, it was a good decision because, like, I faced all the struggles that I can help people with now in trainings because I've seen it. If I would like just a dog who would give me everything for free, um, I wouldn't be the dog trainer that I am today.
And that's an interesting fact when it comes to speaking to agility handlers. Susan that you work with, she has a podcast called Shaped by Dogs, right? And when you get a
Yeah,
dog that isn't coming straight out of the box,
yeah,
you are being shaped as a handler and trainer.
yeah, yeah. That's very, very true. And like, if I would have known Susan back then, I guess things would have been way easier. Um, yeah, but I didn't. So I needed to kind of figure that stuff out. Um, yeah, and like I kind of want to say by myself, but also not because if I would have just stayed in my bubble and comfort zone, I don't think we would have ever outgrown that. Because I would have never brought that dog to competition or to anything because like actually my first competition, he ran off. I was 13 and a half years old. Um, and she ran off and on the way out she was attacking another dog. So and then you stand there alone at a competition because my parents like they find like spending the day there too boring, so they just drop me off maybe. Maybe I even go with somebody else. Um, and I would be there and I would be there with my dog and yeah, that was like the most humbling experience like that I've had. Um, and it was hard. Like it was not like fixed in a couple of days. Um, it took like a long time and it took like such a change of perspective. Because the moment we got to like work and training, I was like, all right, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna run competitions. I'm gonna be great. And stuff like that. But it didn't happen that way.
If you look back to that Max, 12, 13-year-old standing there watching the dog running off the course and attacking another dog, like what made you go back to a new competition and not give up in that moment?
Hmm. I think that I think there's two parts. There's one thing that goes on behind, like in your mind, like unconscious, um, of like I don't want to fail this, like I want to make it work. Um, but to be able to make it work, I think something has to happen in your the real life perspective. Like why did this happen? Um, and I just found like I was like, this is so cool. I started to watch so many people be so good on YouTube videos and stuff like that all over Facebook. And I was like, I love this. I want to have this. Um, and that moment kind of made me like realize that there's way more to it and I have to do way more um to even have a chance to like go in that direction.
Yeah, and would you say that looking at others at competitions or training groups and YouTube videos, did that sort of did you take that and sort of create your own vision of what you wanted to accomplish?
Yeah. So like I guess kind of coming from the motocross world where you're like already like an individual fighter, kinda. Um it made me like I looked at these people and then I would always look at the people who are doing it at the highest level. And of course, I didn't have any resource to go to like private training with them. Like like nor did I have the money or like, I also didn't have the possibility to arrive there or whatever. Um, so I had to find my own way with like looking what are they doing and how are they doing it, and then bringing my own spin to how can I use this most effectively. Um, and I guess that's also kind of like a perspective thing because I think that's what separates um people who stay successful in the sport for very long compared to people who, like, have, like, a shorter time frame who are when they are successful. And I think it's always changeable. Um, but by now, like, if I see something that I think could be improved in my own dogs, or I see in myself, or I see in other people that is already so amazing, then I'm always open to improve that.
So, if I understand you
Yeah.
correctly, you have a vision of how your different dogs you would like them to perform, and then
Yeah.
you reiterate that vision based on if you get new information or new inputs or see other handlers, and you incorporate
Yeah.
that into that vision.
Yeah, and also, kind of like trying to, like I have this idea, like I see the courses, how everything develops. I see what gets better dog by dog. Um, and then I've learned the hard way that you could have your perfect plan, but it probably won't go that way. Um, so how can I still go where I want to go? Um, like not losing my goal, but like making smaller adjustments to get to where I want to be.
Yeah, and that's also a part of the process. Once you have a clear vision of what you want to accomplish, and you see your current situation, that creates a gap,
Yeah,
which could sometimes be uncomfortable. But then it
sure.
starts
Sure.
the effort that you need to put in and the struggles and so on, and the sacrifices sometimes that you have to put in, because the bigger the vision, the more the sacrifices you have to put into it. And I know that from we talking before, is that when you if we go back to that 13-14 year old Max, like what was the effort and the sacrifices that he made at that young
Well,
age?
well, some some illegal ones that I maybe shouldn't mention. Um, so in my defense, I have to say that the moment I started doing more and more, I had the feeling that this is my thing. Um, and I was nowhere near of what I like imagined myself to be. Um, so the sacrifices that I took was number one, um, I would occasionally skip school um, to train. I don't recommend. I've only done it with classes where I knew that was possible. Um, and other than that, like I had we have like in Germany, we have like this thing where it's like a big party when you're like 14 years old. Um, and like there's like lots of money like gathered from all the family, and then you get that. Um, and I just invested all of that money, which was I think it was like 2000 something, everything into obstacles. And of course, you don't get like a full on amazing course for 2000. So I was already looking like, how can I do that? And then this, and then I like building a job board with planks and stuff. Um, so yeah, and then I did lots of talking to my neighbor because he had like a grass field outside, um, that he didn't really take care of so much. So I told him, "Well, I can take care of it if you're okay with having obstacles on there." Um, and at one point it was like, "I'm taking care of it. Is it okay if I like train like 4 times a week?" Um, and if I invite friends to train, and then like it kind of like got this thing. Um, yeah, and honestly, like every cent I had from birthdays or like working, like I went around the town for people in like their summer vacations, and we didn't go to vacation. So I would water their plants, I would cut their grass and stuff like that. Um, and every euro was invested into agility for my dog. Um, and like as like a by then like 15-year-old, um, I would say that's a pretty big thing because your friends like start to go to like they go shopping, they like these pair of shoes, and like I would go with them, but I would like just not spend the money. Um, because I was like, no, no, I gotta save that. And then I had like little envelopes in like a cupboard, um, competition day here, where I would put like money in. So I went to the competition with like 50 cent pieces, like 30, 50 cent pieces for like the run. Um, yeah, it was like I was invested, like really, really invested.
I can definitely hear that. So you basically had budget with envelopes.
Yeah.
And I think that's you touch on a very important point because there's a lot of people there are a lot of people thinking that in order to have progress, in order to grow, I need a hall in the backyard, I need two sets of obstacles, hopefully the best of Gallican and so on. And there's nothing wrong with that. But looking back and what you're telling me, you focused more on what you had available of resources rather than thinking that this is how it should be or this is
And
what I need it to be.
and I believe that that doesn't restrict you to dream bigger. So of course I would like in my mind I always wanted like a place where I have like my hall or whatever. Um, or like in the beginning having like a flat outdoor field. Um, but I mean I gotta take what I have now and see what the future holds. And then still dream big because I think that what I've learned during that time, I guess, is that you can kind of never dream big enough as long as you know how to cope with not getting it immediately.
So it's basically dream big, but then
Yeah.
work where you are at the current moment.
Yeah. So focus. So personally, in my experience, it's like this. When I go to bed at night, or like before, like that's like my creative mind is activated. And now being like almost 26, I can reflect that this is actually happening and not spend the whole 5 hours of first like of the night thinking. Um, so I can stop myself. But there's like this time where I allow myself what would be like, how big can I actually dream? And I think I've done that in like kind of like forever. just not as structured as it is now. Um, and then during the day, I focus on what I can do in what is in my power to make that happen. Um, and then I have like short-term goals that are important to me because these are the ones that are like reinforcing for yourself as well. My feeling. And yeah, and the big dream's never sleeping. And honestly, when I look back, like every big dream that I've had either already came true or is on the right track to come true. And I'm still dreaming bigger. Um, but like this is like when you read all of these things about like if you what's the word with manifesting like how that is true. Like I'm like the perfect example of how it is really true.
Yeah, and I think that once you've gone through the process and you've accomplished a big goal that was once a dream, you start the process over again.
Yeah.
But you're bringing along a confidence that I have actually the ability to set big dreams, work hard towards accomplishing them, overcoming the hurdles that you face, and then you do it again, and then you start to enjoy. And it seems to me like you're starting to enjoy that process of setting big dreams and then
Yeah,
work towards it.
because like it's like what I've learned is that um when I achieved 2018, I was European champion with Max. And there was like by back then one of the three big dreams that I have or have had. Um, so I got that, and in the first moment I was like, "And what happens now?" Um, like what is like the next thing? Like I've done this now, so what is the next thing? Um, so I just fall in love. So you're absolutely right. I fell in love with like the journey to dream bigger. So it's not like I didn't fall in love only with, like, small things and staying there. I fell in love with trying new things, more exposure, more experience, trying different things. Like, right now, like, my mind is thinking about, maybe I should live, like, 6 months in, like, Canada or whatever. Like, maybe there's, like, things to do, to experience. Maybe there's more, like, goals to be chased or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that that is a smart thing as well, because at many times we're so stuck in our own beliefs of, or like a framework of how things should be. But once you, and I think that the purpose with a goal or a vision or a big dream is really to take you out of that box and think differently, start to question some of the beliefs that you have, and then do your best in order to challenge those beliefs and overcome them. And it's an interesting way of doing it. And but if you would go back to, let's say, a younger Max, so let's say we go back to your 15. What was your big dream back then?
So I wanted to live like this life of living from agility. I wanted to be like back then actually like I wanted to be somebody in this sport. Um which by now I've realized that I could have like stopped chasing that one a little bit sooner because honestly that's not fulfilling. To be somebody in this, it's just like you got to be like make yourself better and, like, prioritize that, and then, like, all of these things, they come naturally anyway. Um, so, yeah, and then the 2 biggest goals was, medal at European Open, medal at World Championship.
One of one of the things that I know from speaking to you and knowing a little bit more about your story, and one thing that really caught me was that you were at one point sleeping in the garage of a camper trailer to some friends in order to go to competitions.
So, back then, it was way before the Border Collies, it was still with Emma, the terrier, and, I wanted to go to competitions because I wanted to see, like, how like, where are we? compared to other people at competitions. And it was just like local competitions. But my parents, they weren't into that. Um, so they like my mom, she would support me and she would like if it's in like a 1 hour radius or something, she would drive me. Um, but she wouldn't stay there. She's like, that's like way too boring. Um, so you know them, Daniel and Izzy, and they now have a puppy, a brother to Vince and Christopher and Ellie. Um, and they had this big motorhome, and their son Ben, he's a long friend of mine, and so I asked them like, "Do you think there's like a possibility at first to put my tent like in your area?" And they said, like, "No way, because it's gonna be raining, so like it's gonna be like thunderstorms and everything during the night. Um, you're not gonna sleep in a tent outside." So they have like this garage in the back, um, that they would like have all of their camping stuff in there. But they would get out there anyway for the competition, so it's an empty thing. So they offered me to sleep in their garage of the motorhome for the weekend. And there's a twist to it because like I had Emma, so it was Emma and me in that thing. Um, and then they had to lock the door, like there's 2 sides, and they had to lock one side of the door because, they had an older dog that, like at night or like in the mornings, um, if I would as like a random person go into their front camping area, she might attack because she would be scared. So and they said like, "Maybe it's no problem, but like if it is a problem, then it's gonna be a huge one." So they had to lock me, into that garage. Um And yeah, it was crazy, but like the ways that I would go just for like these couple of runs, a couple of seconds. Um, yeah, and it was like I left these type of events and I was like so motivated and I was like, "Oh my God, this was the best weekend ever." Like drenched in water and dirt and like slipped on the ground while running and everything happened, but I got a clean run and, like, had a 2nd place in A3 and, it was the best weekend ever. Um, that's how kinda how it went.
Yeah, but I think it's such a great story, and Daniel and Susie, they're wonderful people, so kind,
Yeah.
and open, and I think that it's when we see people standing on the top of a podium, whether it's European Open or AWC, you never think that that person was the one sleeping in the garage of a camper trailer or doing those type of things because you just see what's in front of you. And I think that it says a lot that you were willing to do so many things in order to pursue a vision that you had. And that's really what is required so many times in order to get to a certain level. It doesn't mean that you have to really put yourself in a painful situation all the time, but we have to put in an effort at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah, and I believe that, if you chase things and if you're, ready to sacrifice things, um, of course, it's a little bit easier if you're it's easier and difficult if you're 15 because you're not risking as much, um, as like an adult. But also it's way more difficult because you don't have the resources. Um, so probably it like balances it out in the middle again. Um, but I felt like every time I've done that, one point I got rewarded. And there was like possibilities for more. So it's just like a rewarding, reinforcing journey. And I think if you feel that, and it might take long, like it hasn't been like, the stories like talked in a couple of minutes, but like it took me, I think like 8 months, so my terrier wouldn't run away from a competition. It was like 8 months of kind of daily work towards that. Um, and that's been like that has been a difficult time. That was like a struggling time. Um, and I do sometimes I do have to remind myself because we get so used to like now if I like I know so much more, so many things wouldn't even occur anymore and avoid it. And then something happens, and in my mind it would be why? Like why is this so challenging now? And I was like it's not even challenging. Like you've spent like 8 months, whatever it was. I'm like I was going to football games and stuff with her, so she would learn how to work with me in that environment. Like I went on the bus with her, like just like few stops back and forth because she was scared of the noise and stuff. So there was like so much time invested. It's like, you know, it's like a perspective thing.
Yeah, I think so. And I, while you're telling this, like, how often do you actually look back on to watch the
Um,
progress that you've
yeah.
had?
So I do that every time I win something. It happens automatically. Um, because kind of like, um, of course, the moment you win is like pure emotion and it's like amazing. But for me, what makes it so emotional is the wait there. Like this is just like the cherry on the cake reward thing, um, which of course is admired by everybody and also by myself. Like I admire it, and I like everybody who achieves something like this has my deepest respect. Um, and yeah, but in the end, I feel like yeah, after these events, like it's a lot. Like the drive home from Portugal, like I kind of relived all of these struggles and all of the ways and I would even say if I have like a struggle, um, it also happens that I relive and I was like, like, do I have a different perspective right now than I had back then? Because back then it was like nothing was impossible. So, so why am I limiting myself now when this was possible? Um, and I mean, I have lots of like positive, like experience in the back already for me, like as well with like frustration and celebration. Um, but I do think that there's like lots of things out there. For example, if we look at this podcast, like people like you who try to like give something to people like to relate to. Um, maybe they haven't had the experience themselves that it's worth it. Um, but maybe they believe you and I that honestly, in the end, it is freaking worth it.
Yeah, I think that um, one of my favorite phrases is to struggle well. So going through the struggle but doing it well. I think that again, if you set a goal that's outside of your comfort zone and you manage to work towards that and make that within your comfort zone, it creates such a fantastic feeling that the effort that you put in, though it seemed expensive there and then, was totally worth it.
Yeah.
And then you want to do it again.
And yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like you just want to do it again and you want to keep going and keep growing and stuff like that.
There are two things that I thought about when you were talking. It's very interesting that that a victory is triggering that reflection. And
Hmm.
there's an exercise that, let's say that where you mentally go back to the young you and you take them into the future and you show them what you've accomplished. And that exercise
Yeah.
is very it's that's an emotional exercise. And that gives you
Yeah.
then again power to take the next leap, the next step towards what you can accomplish in the next 10 years or wherever it might be. But that was the first part. That was one point for the audience. But the second thing that I want to go into is these struggles. For you, what do you consider as one of the lowest or most difficult struggles for you to go through?
Most difficult one. Hmm, I have to think. So there's been like different type of struggles. And I guess it kind of depends what type of person you are to like see what is more difficult and like easier to me. Um, so for example, I would say confidence was never like a huge issue for me because I always felt like if I can do it, like I can do it anywhere. Um, the pressure is not such a huge like it's a struggle because you have to reflect like how do I cope with that? But I like I manage it well because the moment I step on the line, it's like completely gone. Um, so I would say probably finding myself in competing and coaching and truly allowing me um, not to do what people like, but to do what I believe is best for me and for them. So I think that was my personal biggest struggle along the way. Um, yeah.
Finding your own voice in a way that, yeah, and also having the guts to do what you think is right.
Yeah, and like standing up for myself. Um, like if I would stand there next to somebody that was like an or is like an idol, um, and in like a for example, that's like we're standing there at a competition at tryouts, and that person says this and this and this about that course, and somebody would ask me, "What is your opinion on that?" Being able to say what I mean without being like, kind of like, attached to what the other person said, that was like that type of person for me, that was very different. And also in seminars, if people come, like, I want that. I want that everybody leaves with as much value as possible, um, but I'm not I'm not changing my core beliefs, um, in dog training and in teaching. So, if you don't like that, um, then you're more than happy to go to somebody, and I would even recommend you somebody. Um, but my like, the core belief stays the same, and I'm like learning the confidence to express that and to go for that. That was my most difficult struggle, I would say.
Yeah, so being firm on your own principles despite others' opinions, basically,
Yeah,
and sort of
yeah.
stand your ground. Yeah.
And I guess if we would like take that like into like a competition thing, when you're like horse walking and everybody says, "Oh my god, you have to do it this way here," and you hear everybody talking, but I can do it this way and it's better. And like do your thing and learn, and if even if it doesn't work out, learn why it didn't.
Yeah, and that brings us to a very interesting topic, and that is making those decisions at a course walk. An interesting phenomenon there is that people see what other people are doing as a course walk,
Yeah,
and then they see more people doing that, and then they think that that is the solution. But they're
yeah,
not taking into account that I have a different dog, I'm a different handler,
yeah,
and they're not doing their things, but they're
yeah.
then making a decision that seems like everyone else is making.
And like I was just going to say, maybe there's like you can take such advantage if you think outside the box in these moments.
Yeah, because suddenly you take a different decision, do a different handling, and then you get
Yeah,
0.3 seconds more, and that's
yeah,
sufficient. Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. It's I. What comes to my mind is really about how we humans are as a social animals. And there's a great video on
Mhm.
YouTube where a woman walks into a waiting room for, I think it's a doctor or a dentist. And then every time they hear a ping, everyone gets up from their chair and stands for 2 seconds and then sits down. And what she doesn't know is that everyone else in the room are actors. And then, yes, and
Oh,
then she starts to follow the group. and then one by one of the actors are going out, and then new people are coming in that aren't in the game, and they keep following, and suddenly you have the waiting room sitting with people that have no idea why they're getting up when they hear the ping sound, and that can often happen with people. And but if if you choose to go your own way, you might have a different outcome as well. That could potentially be better in many cases. And going to that, you decided at a very very young age. I think many people also consider both of us still very young. But you decided that you wanted to pursue agility, not just as a handler, but also as an instructor or a coach. And that gave it sort of had its own set of struggles, because I know that you've been driving a lot in your car to go to different places.
Yes.
So how did you manage to what was the effort that you had to put in as a coach, and how do you manage to combine that as being a handler?
So I would say it's still a learning process. And I have the feeling that it might never like be done like in some way, because it's always like a journey. Um, yeah, so I've been driving, just like to get you like an overview, in the last 2 years, because my car died, so I know exactly for the 2 years that I had that one. I drove 88,000 kilometers on it in 2 years, and basically only for teaching and the big events. Which is like, as a German, an insane amount of kilometers you drive.
88,000 kilometers divided by 2 years, which gives you an average of 44,000 kilometers per year.
Yes, and now like figure out how much time that was in a car. Um, yeah, and like when I started getting like all of the invitations to the seminars, for me, like it was completely clear that I'm gonna follow that, and I'm gonna do as much as I can. Um, and like I was willing to sacrifice my own agility a little bit, to get my feet at the door into the teaching world. Um, so I've been like traveling a lot. In the beginning, I didn't even have a driving license. Um, so like I was going by train, whatever. At one point with the car, and I would teach, and at some points I would go and I would like bring my dogs. I very quickly learned that um, if I would going to like make like teaching the priority right there, um, I have to take that in consideration when I take the dog and train them. Because I'm a different person. If I've been teaching agility for 8 hours straight, I'm a different person after that. Not in a bad way. I'm just um, not as um, like energetic. Like there's so much like I would call myself like I'm a very creative person when I train my dog. Very intuitive. Um, so that's lost after 8 hours. So I can teach like knowledge and skills and stuff, but I'm not gonna handle a lot after. And occasionally I would do that on purpose to prepare if I'm in a situation like in Portugal this year. So I have to fight through and I need to perform anyway. Um, but that can't be like my daily business. Um, so at one point I decided that um, I need to fall in love with like finding the balance in that, because I love both. I love to train my dogs and I love like teaching people. Um, so but it's been like a huge struggle. Maybe like honestly looking back, maybe that's even one of the most struggles. Um, to find the balance between giving to others, um, also like taking and using the time for me and my dog. That is very, very difficult thing, and like I'm getting much better at it because like I've made rules with myself of how to do that. Um, because I know in the end, if somebody that I know asks me, "Oh, couldn't you stay 2 more days to teach after that competition?" I would say yes, because number 1, I like teaching, and number 2, it's also my source of income. Um, of course. And then there goes another 2 days of where I could have done something with my dogs. Um, yeah,
Yeah, but I think that it is a challenge, and agility is not a. Even though I would say you're a professional athlete in agility, there's no money connected to competitions necessarily. It's very few. There are some, but it's you can't make a living of competing at those two competitions, basically,
sadly.
sadly. But then again, it's if you want to do this full time, it also it has its consequences being an instructor as well. It takes energy.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like it's a very different type of job, and I think a lot of people who only go to training, um, they don't know what it takes from the person standing in the middle. Um, so I've always, like, had this talk with Ramona. Um, like, she has a normal job, she's doing more teaching now, and, like, she would always not, like she would understand, but she had a hard time to understand that if I come back from 4 days of teaching a seminar in somewhere in the world, flying back, and when I come back home the next day, you know, I kind of wanna go on a walk alone with my earbuds in and be in my own world. And she would be like, "Why? We didn't see each other for, like, 5 days." Um, and I'm like, "I'm sorry, my social battery is completely drained because I've been focused, creative, and supportive for 4 days of at least 8 hours." Um, and you know, training should also be like a fun area, but in the end, it's, like, if you come to a seminar of mine, you're not coming to, like, do 1, 2, 3 and say, "Haha, I drink a coffee." Um, you know? So, I mean, you can, but that's not the purpose of it. Um, so in the end, I came back home and I'm like, I need at least, like, a day if I want to recharge, and I would say for, like, 3 years, I really didn't have that day. I just pushed through for 3 years straight.
Yeah,
Um,
and that drains over
which
time.
exactly, yeah. It drains you, and it's like, it's a sacrifice that people don't see so much, I guess. Um, yeah, and that probably it's also like I'm the person who would be like, "I'm gonna push through, like, I can do this, like, why shouldn't I?" Um, so maybe that's also a problem sometimes. But I'm getting better at reflecting, so I guess, that was a good combination in the end.
We talked a lot about the struggles, but there came a breakthrough. But what was the breakthrough for you? When was it? And why do you consider that your breakthrough?
Mhm. So, I would say probably the moment that I qualified, like, German tryouts are insanely intense. Um, and when I went with Bax and I won the overall tryouts in Germany in large, which is the most difficult category, um, which was also his first year trying out, um, that was the moment where I was like, "Alright, I think, I think we have the potential, and I think we're on the right way to do it."
Yeah, and I remember this was my first European Open. That was in 2019 in Netherlands, which was hotter than Portugal this year, and we nobody was prepared for it. But I remember at the closing ceremony and also during the whole event, Ailey would say, "Look at this guy. Pay attention to this guy. He's gonna be something. I know it for sure." And how old were you back then? Were you
19.
18, 19 years old?
Yes, 19.
19, yeah. and I remember you standing on the podium there. I can't remember if it was for team or individual, but yeah, pay attention to this guy for sure. And since then, it's been
That's
quite a journey.
Yeah, honestly, it's been really like, yeah, I would say that was the breakthrough moment. Um, um, but also, actually, that came with a struggle. Um, like backing that up, in two ways. Number one, um, I don't want to be a one dog wonder person. Um, and also, like, I don't want to be the guy who was here two times now. You know, I want I want to keep doing this because I love these events. So these events are um like the reward for everything you do um are these big events to me personally.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and it's your opportunity to really show the effort you put in advance, basically,
Yeah.
to test and see how well did we prepare.
I was just like thinking that it's like the change of my ambition um it kind of changes every year. And I had a talk with a friend who's um the type of like you have these people who are like 100% honest even if you don't want. You know her, Kathleen with Reese, and she's my best friend like along the whole way. Like she's been training with me in that little garden with everything. Um, and she's so honest that sometimes I have to like ignore her opinion because I believe I can do this anyway. Um, but she's grounding me again, and I would like I had a conversation with her about how every year I feel like we have at least one conversation of what I'm thinking is gonna happen now and what is gonna be next and stuff. Um, and she's always gonna be like, "Yeah, but this is yeah, mhm." And she does believe in me, and she always keeps pushing, don't get me wrong. Um, but she shows me all of the things that need to be done in order to do that, which is great. Um, yeah, so I realized during that talk that it changes every year. So it changes every year. It's like in the beginning, it was like, I wanna go to these big competitions. Then it was like, I wanna back up on European Open women with backs. Um, then it was like remix was like, "She's such a talented dog. I can't let her talent go to waste." Um, stuff like that. Like, there's so many things that go on. Um, and maybe if you put that into if I look back and if I would have known more like 10 years ago, I think some of the starters would have been so much easier because I know that this is not gonna change the world. It's gonna be amazing when it works. Um, but tomorrow I go in the supermarket and nobody knows me. So I can be who I am and I can do my best, and I have to be happy with that.
Yeah, yeah. But one point that you touched on there is that if I were to go back and deal with the things that I consider as a struggle back in the days, it wouldn't be a struggle, and I
Yeah,
agree with that.
yeah,
But it says a lot about that you're not the same person today that you were back then.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
like for your personal growth, what has agility meant to you to develop you as a person? I'm very
Mhm.
interested to hear your take on that.
Yeah, I think in, like, lots of ways. I think, number 1, being a natural people pleaser, it taught me how not to do that too much. Um, also, how do I always have the intention to create a fair environment. That's like I want that everybody feels like valued. Um, so how can you communicate with people? So my communication skills, my emotional availability to whatever that like can be in different relationships, friendships, coachings, whatever, um, is like uh changed so much and improved so much. I feel like I can make way more impact on people that come to training because of that. Um, and on like a really, really personal thing, um, it taught me that like believing in myself is never wrong. Um, and like I guess if you listen to me for like talking about the last 10 years, it's kind of like this journey of hard work pays off, which is true, and struggles, they, you know, you get through them and stuff like that. Uh, before that, when I was like maybe like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and struggles were really big struggles, um, I was not talking like I'm talking now. Like, um, I had this feeling that always kept me going. Um, but there were moments where I was like, "Oh my god, is that all worth it?" Um, you know, like, "Is that really what I want?" I don't know. I had doubts. Um, it changed my core belief in myself and what I can do. Um, yeah, and basically how like how much we can learn from dogs. I love dogs.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and that brings me to the next question. Like, what has your dogs or one of your dogs taught you that a human could never do?
That's a good one. Um, I would say like, well, maybe a human could do it. No human can comfort me in the way that my dog can. So, taking care of them, going on a walk with them, like, that grounds me so well, and that gives me so much peace. Um, and talking about make and materia, patience.
Yeah, patience is in that's important. It's funny how many of the people that I talk to is that their first dog is the one that teaches them patience.
Yeah. Also, like, in all fairness, I guess if I would've like, if I would've been a better dog trainer by then, um, it would maybe be a different story, but we learned together and, so I'm always grateful for that because, with every dog, I learn so much more, um, and I'm always like, I always have the intention to give them whatever they need back, um, and it creates this, I don't know, like, they have no expectation. They are just grateful for what they get. And that's so wholesome, and I try to take that as an example, like, if I can give, um, it will come back to me eventually in some other way, you know? Might be too spiritual for some people, but I believe it is.
Yeah, you can call it karma, and what you give is what you get,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that also goes back to perfectly into a different topic, and that is you changed the game a little bit. You've been traveling around now in Germany, different places, holding
Mm,
coaching sessions or seminars and so on, and then competing on these big competitions. But you and I changed the game a bit. I remember it so well when still was the secret. You said that, Christopher, I want to tell you something. We are going to collaborate with Susan Garrett, me and Enya Habel, and how's that been for you? That's been I can remember when you said it, and I was just thinking your life is going to change in so many ways.
mm,
It's not going to come for free. We
yeah.
know that for sure. But how has it changed for you?
I have to start off with saying that I've never met a person, um, that has such a unique and inspiring brain as Susan. Um, she's really a one of a kind person, and she has such a kind heart. Um, so when we collabed with her, like, when she asked us if that would be an option for us, and we, like, talked about how that would be and how we could, like, help way more people than we can do right now. Um, because the time is limited, but if it's online, there's no limitation. Um, but of course, you need to create something like we wanted to create something very unique. Um, and the journey has been like so rewarding. Um, um, it's also been hard, exclamation mark. The hours, the time that we've put in, um, is really like I like it's like a lot. Let me tell you that. But it's like it's worth it 1,000 times because number one, it grew, I believe, all of us, like even the OG Susan Garrett, um, could take things from that. Um, and I did for sure, and I know Enya did for sure. Um, and we grew so much as like a team, like communicating as a team, working as a team, um, looking at way different perspectives. So, yeah, and we had 2 big, shoots, um, of, like, morning 8 till evening 9 or 10. Uh, Somebody was straight out in front of the camera, um, and it's been such a creative thing to do, but also such an like, a structure-wise thing, and, like, I could have never imagined how big, like, the background of everything could be to make it as amazing as it is now. Um, yeah, so that's, like, my experience for the program itself, how it worked. My life changed in the following way that, um, I'm sitting here in my office, um, much more, um, and I'm doing lots of Anya and me, we're, like, with the team a lot doing behind the scenes of, um, learning how all of the things work together, which is crazy cool. Um, and we learn a lot. Um, yeah, and that's like a different, and of course, like lots of reviewing the videos. We're still like we're not done with all the lessons throughout the year because there's like 3 to 5 lessons a week for a full year. Um, Imagine how much video time that is. Um, and yeah, like we're still like we're way ahead. So everybody who's listening, who's intending to click, you don't worry, you don't have to miss out on your content. Um, but we're not fully done with, like, the perfect cuts because it takes a village, honestly. It's not just one person who does it and then it's out. Um, there's lots to do, and, yeah, that changed for me completely because that means that I can have way more time at home with Ramona, with my dog, um, and I'm still teaching them live, but also mainly the people around our circle who are here and then prioritize who are in our programs because that elevates even more. If you're in that program and you come to a private lesson, um, like you can take so much more out of it than the usual person who comes to training because you already know all of the core values. Um, it's like creating more and more. Um, yeah, it's been insane.
One of the things that I wrote in my book is a formula for change, and that is having the formula is
Yeah.
vision times um, dissatisfaction times system times belief. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I really like about what you're doing now together is that I think a lot of people out there have a vision, they have big dreams. They might not be confident to say it out loud to people, but they know it within.
Yeah.
Um, they look at the current situation, they know that that is not congruent with the vision, so that creates dissatisfaction. And there, but you needed two other ones, and you need a system. And going back to when you were young, you didn't have a system necessarily. You just started with what you had.
No.
But today it's totally different because you can actually get access to a system and sort of have mentors that gives you a lot more speed faster and much more results. You still have to put in the work though, but you get more return of the work because you don't have to
Sure.
figure out the way.
Sure.
And then that instills belief as well. And that's really what I sort of push towards people. Like find that system, and you talked about that as well. You have your training system, and how important is that for you?
Yeah. That's I think that's the most important thing, and, um, I like, I've been like I've went through all of these struggles creating my idea. Enya went through her struggles creating her idea. Susan went through even more because she has way more experience already, and also she's like in that dog training thing, um, hiding punishment training for years, through reinforcement-based dog training. Um, and now 3 people who are successful in this sport, um, with the intention of positive reinforced dog training, joined together to create our experience. So to create the best experience, because there's always gonna be like I have a different experience than Enya has or than Susan has. Um, but all of that combined creates a program that is suitable for everybody. Um, and like whatever struggle you have, there's like nothing in there that is not. There's like everything is in there for you to have like that struggle. Um, you can feel I get really excited about this program because I feel like we can help so many people. Um, you just have to trust. You have to trust us, and then nothing is gonna be in your way anymore.
Yeah, and you can also take in your own pace, and adjust it to your dog, so you can
Yeah,
sort
for
of
sure.
tailor it to an individual process as well. And I think it's very unique that you collaborate because there's a principle called triangulate, which is done to make good decisions. And I think that you're a triangulated team that push each other, and you challenge each other, which then creates the best outcome for the people that are in that community and on those courses. And in terms of, I know that it's a limited when you can get access to it, but can you sort of give us a hint on when you're reopening for people to join?
Might be something happening after a big event this year that's gonna be happening. Not so not so far from that.
Very good. That's really cool. But in terms of your journey, now having European Open behind us, where you had a challenge because it was a big podium, but you were both on first and third place, first with Remix and third place with Style. Um, and you had with Make as well, which was his last championship, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was her last, yes.
Which was very emotional for both you and Ramona. And I got to witness it, and it was fantastic to watch. But what's next on your journey now?
Yeah, a lot of things. Um, like huge, big future dreams. Um, yeah, so my goal for this year's AWC is kind of the one that I have every year. Um, I want to perform as good as we can, with the potential we have. Um, and of course, I would have loved to have Remix there. Um, but I'm so looking forward. It's gonna be Make's last 2 runs. I gave away her individual spot. I'm only gonna run her in teams, and I'm gonna enjoy these 2 runs to the fullest. I'm gonna give everything I have. I'm gonna be emotional after. I'm not gonna allow myself to think about the last 2 runs before. Um, and I'm just gonna enjoy style, and I'm gonna enjoy the fact that I'm able to be there, and the moment I know myself. I'm gonna do all the work leading up to it, and once I'm there, um, I know that I'm gonna be able to perform because that's what I do. And, yeah, that's the closest goal, and then let's see, at one point, there's, like, huge things in the future, visiting more countries. On Saturday, I'm flying to Australia for the first time. Um, yeah, lots of cool things. Yeah.
Big dreams.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much, Max, for sharing your story. I do believe, and I hope that people that are listening to this can relate to some of your story and then use that as motivation to continue to put in the struggle. And
Yeah.
if you want more information about the work that Max, Enya, and Susan are doing, where can they go to find more information about that?
Yeah. So you can just actually you could just go to my Instagram. You will find a link in my bio that you can click to figure out more. Um, or you just search Synergy Handling 60, um, and then you will find way more information. Um, and also, if you're like really, really curious, you just have to scroll a little bit back in my Instagram profile because there's lots of like there's live sessions that we've done on the topic of the programs. Um, Also like few little reels where you can see what the program is about. Yeah, so make sure you check that out. And my Instagram profile is max.sprint.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Max, for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. It's been super cool.
I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode with Max, and that you now have a deeper understanding of the work and the effort and the sacrifices he had to put in order to get to his level of performance. And I also hope that this episode inspires you, that you can relate to it, and that it inspires you to put in the work so that you get to the level of performance you want to get to. Remember, you are the one that defines success for you and your dog, but it's also you that need to put in the work. And I hope that this podcast really fuels your tank so that you can put in more effort, better effort, and striving towards becoming a better trainer, a better handler, and hopefully a better dog owner. We also talked about his collaboration with Susan Garrett and Enya Habel, and in the show description, you will find a link to their next masterclass that will start on the 23rd of September after AWC. So go to the link description or the descriptions and the show notes and click on the link, and you can sign up through their webpage there. And then you'll get all kinds of notifications so you don't miss it. Before that, we have the AWC that is happening in Sweden. So next week, you will see Max there. I will attend. And I look so forward to see all the different teams go, to see my old friends back at this big competition, this big event that we all look forward to every single year. And I'm also going to put in the link in the show descriptions or show notes where you can watch the live streaming for this event. And with that, to all the listeners, both the ones that are going to AWC and the ones that will probably watch on the live stream, have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It means a lot every time I see a new listener listening to these podcasts. And then I see you next week.